So there you go.
Make more time.
Conflict and security, weak institutions, and limited access to justice remain a great threat to sustainable development. Human rights are key in shaping the pandemic response. By respecting human rights in this time of crisis, we will build more effective and inclusive solutions for the emergency of today and the recovery of for tomorrow. Human rights put people center stage. Responses that are shaped by and respect human rights result in better outcomes in beating the pandemic, ensuring healthcare for everyone and preserving human dignity. Moving on to one of our most awaited speaker in today's session to focus on the role of organization leaders in building peace and justice in the time of pandemic, Attorney Chel Jokno will help us give light to this threat to sustainable development. So before we begin, let's check first with Attorney Chel Jokno. Good day to you, Din Chel.
Good day to you, and thank you for the opportunity to share my views with all of you at the Second Philippine Human Resources Assembly.
Thank you, Attorney Chel. So let's wait no more, and may I introduce Attorney Chel Jokno. Dean Jose Manuel I. Jokno is the founding dean of the De La Salle University College of Law and chair of the Free Legal Assistance Group, or FLAG. He has been practicing law for 30 years and gained prominence as a human rights lawyer and litigator. The DLSU College of Law, which opened in 2010, is the first law school in the Philippines to highlight human rights and legal aid as part of its educational program, while the Free Legal Assistance Group, or FLAG, is the oldest organization of human rights lawyers in the Philippines, known for handling cases involving civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. Though already well known in legal and human rights circles, Dean Shell gained wider public prominence when he ran on a platform of justice and judicial reform during the 2019 senatorial elections. He emerged as one of the leading opposition senatorial candidates largely because of his connection with young voters, who made sure he constantly topped nearly all pre-election polls and surveys in schools and universities all over the country. Though he actually has no grandchildren yet, these young Filipinos adopted Dinchel as their woke lolo during the campaign because of his progressive stance on issues, his advocacy for youth empowerment, and his witty remarks despite the occasional dad joke. Even with the elections over, Dinchel continues to engage with his children by serving as speaker for various events for numerous schools and organizations all over the country, with speaking engagement serving as a venue for continuing his advocacy for justice, human rights, and empowering the youth. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present you again Attorney Jel Jokno for today's session.
Thank you. Of course, before I start, I really need to thank the chartered professionals in human resources and all of you who are here, people managers, human resource leaders, executives, decision makers, and business owners. It's not often that a lawyer like me, especially a human rights defender, gets to have an audience like you, such a distinguished audience. And I really welcome the opportunity to talk about some things that I think are so important to us and to our country. I understand that as human resources practitioners, you do a lot of things that are similar to what I do as a human rights lawyer. You look for success through people. You empower the people whom you serve. And in a sense, and I think in a very real sense, you build peace and justice in your respective organizations. And that is not very far from what I do as a lawyer, and in particular, a human rights lawyer. Because to me, as a human rights lawyer, people are the most important part of any legal problem. People are the reason why we live together as a society. And if we cannot learn how to live with each other in dignity, then I don't think that we would be fostering the kind of country that we want to have, not really for us, but for our children. And I think that when you ask me to speak about the role of organizational leaders in building peace and justice, it's really not far from what you do as chartered professionals in human resources. Because if we want to build peace and justice in our country, we have to have success through people. If we want to build peace and justice in our country, we need to empower our people, especially the marginalized. And if we really want a just and lasting peace, then that peace must be based on justice. Kaya sa akin, hindi po malayo itong pinag-uusapan natin, both in my field and in your field. Because I think ultimately, our goals and our objectives are the same. It's just that perhaps the context or the milieu in which we operate are somewhat different. And of course, when we speak of building peace and justice, we are talking about doing this on a national scale. It's really all about nation building. So when you ask me to speak about the role of leaders of organizations in building peace and justice, I really think the bottom line is ang pinag-uusapan natin dito ay nation building. We all have a duty to help build our nation the way we want it to be. And I believe that you and I, we all have this thing that we must do, that we must accomplish while we are here, while we were given this beautiful land upon which we have grown up. And that is why, to me, when I recall of things about nation building, I recall what my father said some years back, where he said that if we really want to build our nation, we must have not only a national consciousness, but also a national conscience. Ibig sabihin ay hindi lang sapat yung alam natin na tayong lahat ay Pilipino, meron tayong Philippine identity. Dapat din tayo ay maging konsyensya ng ating bayan. When you talk about building a national consciousness, I believe that that requires a sense of history. That requires that when we talk about and think about ourselves as Filipinos, we know our history. Kasi kung tutuusin, kung titingnan natin yung ating kasaysayan, it has been a struggle for dignity and justice ever since the time of Rizal until today. Iisa lang naman yung ipinaglalaban natin. Yung ating kabuhayan bilang tao, yung ating dignidad, yung ating kalayaan, at yung ating mga karapatan. And that is why I think that when we talk about building a national consciousness, all of us, especially kayo po sa human resources arena, can help to strengthen that sense of Filipino identity, to strengthen the bond that we must all share, no matter how diverse we are. Because when you think about it, the Philippines culturally is a very, very diverse country. In the same way that biologically, we also have a lot of biodiversity. Culturally, we have even more. And it is rich. It is what I believe makes us beautiful. By accepting that diversity as part of our national consciousness, I believe that we could be more inclusive rather than exclusive. And by being inclusive, be able to achieve the goals and aspirations that we have for a democratic type of country and society. Pero ito po, I do believe that we have and we are grasping very quickly that sense of a national identity, that sense of a national consciousness. Palagay ko, nagkukulang tayo sa conscience. And that is where I believe you can contribute so much in terms of developing a sense of what is right and what is wrong, and of course, the courage and the strength to stand up and to tell people or our leaders, if it has to be them, that what they're doing is not right and that they should stop doing it. Palagay ko, yun ang isang napakahalagang leksyon ng ating kasaysayan. Hanggang ngayon ay medyo hindi pa natin napapatupad. That aspiration to have a just and a humane society where we respect each other Kahit na po yung pinakamaliit na Pilipino, yung sinasabi natin na walang boses, nasa laylayan natin at lipunan, ay kikilalanin pa rin natin sila bilang tao. That is the kind of national conscience that I believe we need if we really want to build peace and justice in our country. Kaya lang, pag sinabi kasi natin kapayapaan, when we talk about peace, it does depend on what that peace is based on. If the peace that we enjoy is based on fear of reprisal, fear of being targeted, fear of being visited in your home and taken away and put in jail, and so forth, I don't think that is the kind of peace that we need or want. What we are looking for is peace that is based on justice. And that is perhaps what is so elusive in our country. Mula pa po ng panahon nila Rizal hanggang ngayon, ang hinahanap talaga natin ay katarungan. At hanggang ngayon, napakahirap na makita ito sa ating lipunan. And to me, the problems with our justice system, it's not just a problem. It is the problem. Kaya po tayo nagkaganito, kaya po tayo may impunity, kaya walang pananagutan, kaya laganap ang korupsyon, kaya hindi natin mapigilan itong mga sindikatong kriminal ng droga, smuggling, etc. ay isa lang naman ang dahilan, yung pagkukulang natin sa hustisya sa ating bayan. In my travels prior to the pandemic, every part of our country that I visited, pare-pareho lang po ang tanong sa akin. Bakit po sa Pilipinas, double standard ang justice? And it's very difficult for me to accept that as a lawyer, pero I will be the first to admit that it is very true. Talagang malaki ang pagkukulang ng sistema ng hustisya para sa ating bayan. And in my belief, it is really the largest obstacle to development in our country. Because we will never get business to come into the country to invest their money here if they cannot depend on our justice system. We will never be able to stop impunity or corruption or drug or criminal activities that are organized without a strong justice system. Kaya sana, ang hiling ko po sana sa inyo ay samahan niyo ako dito sa ating kilusan para maibago natin yung ating justice system. And I believe every one of us deserve better, especially our children. Hindi ko po matanggap na yung aking mga anak at yung kanilang mga anak ay mabubuhay sa isang bansa na walang hustisya. Na para makakuha ka ng hustisya ay kailangan malaki kang tao at yung pangkaraniwang Pilipino ay asa ka na lang na makakakuha ka ng katarungan. I have a dream. I dream of our country as a country that is just and humane. A country where we have a lot of joy and laughter. A country where we have this love for life. A country where we can share with each other the best of what we have and not the worst of who we are. I do hope that we will all walk together in the path that will lead us to that place. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you once again, Attorney Chaljokno, for a very productive and fruitful session. Indeed, that this is one of the most important and interesting topics that will be benefited by not just by organizational leaders, but also by individual contributors and political leaders. 2020 is a challenging year for businesses and organizations due to the coronavirus disease outbreak. Not only it is impacting the lives of people around the world, but it is also impacting the global economy and locally. So with this outbreak, it will really have an impact on small business owners. We have seen a lot of small businesses shutting down, affording huge number of employees. Again, in light of this pandemic, would like to thank Attorney Chaljokno for giving and extending his time. So for questions and that you would like to raise to Attorney Cheljok, no, feel free to message our Facebook page. No, just look for CPHR Philippines and then just send a message there. And then during the free time of Attorney Cheljok, no, we will be answering those questions. Thank you again, Attorney Chel, for a very fruitful and informative session. Mabuhay po kayo.
Thank you.